I see some folks in the chat already. It's good to see Carl here. It's good to see Bob. And it's good to see Jace. As always, this will be awesome. Very excited about today's content. It is something I'm very much looking forward to. As we get started, I'm working on condensing my introduction to these kinds of things, and I don't see how I can absolutely dispense with the introductions that I repeat every time we start our Ephesians series, because when new people come, good morning, Roberta. It's good to see you. When new people come, there's an expectation management consideration here. And if you come to an Ephesians study and you're expecting something that is in accordance with the cultural programming of which most of churchianity is a product, then you're going to be disappointed when you get here, and you may think all kinds of crazy, weird things like, where is this guy coming from? And so, trying to tell you where I'm coming from. So my countdown video in the future, my goal is to make the countdown video the introduction to how we approach things on this channel, specifically to point out how it is different than how people point things out in other channels, or what other kind of Christian content or preaching or teaching would be, which we don't consider this to be preaching or teaching or anything. This is perspective sharing. That's what this is. Okay. There's no expectation that you are to agree with me. The point of what we do here is to see if there's some kind of provocation that can prompt you to your next level of growth and transformation. And that prompting could very much come from something that you hear that you don't like or disagree with. And you may never agree with it, but you may still grow as a result of having been exposed to it. Does that make sense? So we don't require that anybody agrees with us here. We just think that interacting might prompt you to grow. And the perspective that we share might be helpful in some way, even if it just awakens you to the idea of how wrong it is. That's fine too. I mean, if it's helpful for a negative reason. So some of the spokes on our wheel of perspective is that we see Jesus as the way, the truth, and life, as opposed to seeing Christianity as a set of beliefs. Christianity is not a set of beliefs. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and he's referred to all through Scripture as the way, not a set of beliefs. Jesus, Paul, John, and Peter emphasized charity, agape, love, above all, as the highest priority. Why, as soon as I go live, my facial hair starts to make my nose itch. Emphasize love as the highest priority above all other things. And if you look at the priorities of churchianity institutions, that is not the case at all. And when we say love, we're not talking about a mushy, ushy, gushy feeling. And we're not talking about enabling bad behaviors, which could be like the social gospel or anything like that. Feeding people in soup lines is not a bad thing, but doing something acutely for people that doesn't help prompt an internal transformation in the long run is actually not as good for them as we might think it is. It might alleviate our conscience, but we're not doing anything for them really, other than prolonging the misery into which their decisions have gotten them thus far. So love is the affordance of choice, or that which enables choice. And to double click on that, we're not talking about choice like a single opportunity or a set of limited menu options. We're talking about generalized increased optionality. And the generalized increased optionality, you say, what is that? It sounds like a bunch of words that you're throwing around. The generalized increased optionality is the same kind of increased optionality you might get from, say, physical fitness. If you're physically fit, you might attract more employers, more friends, more potential mates, and you might have many more activities that you are able to participate in. Okay, anything from going on a hike to backpacking the Appalachians, to riding a roller coaster, or to playing with your grandkids. Okay, there's all kinds of things that physical fitness enables you to do. And there's not a limited set of options. It's just generalized and increased optionality. The same thing is for being educated, for being able to read, for numeracy and mathematics. It opens a whole new world of possibilities to you when you have these. So love is that which conveys or delivers generalized increased optionality. That's what love is. And so that's when we say love, that's what we're talking about. So if you're interacting with people that results in decreased generalized optionality, that is not love. So love is to be prioritized above all. When we look at the gospel, we're looking at the gospel as a pattern to be embodied, not just a set of data to be affirmed. Believing the gospel in the Bible doesn't just mean to affirm it as true. It means to decide to pattern your life after the pattern of the gospel. That's what it means. The word believe, as it shows up in Scripture, is a committal pattern type of thing. Okay? Not just an affirmation. Good morning, Brenda. It's good to see you. Good morning, Brian. Keep Brian's son in your prayers, if you would, please. And we see Jesus, the light, as that which is in you, not some external Hebraic megazeus to be sought outside of you. Okay. John 1:9 says, "This is the true light which lighteth every man that cometh into the world." And Acts 17:28, "For in him we live, move, and have our being." This was said to people who are not believers by Paul. Proverbs 20:27 says, "The spirit of man is the candle of the Lord, searching all the inward parts of the belly." And we may have to double click on that verse today. I don't remember what slide this is. Slide 22. Colossians 1:27, "Christ in you, the hope of glory." Colossians 3:11, "Christ is all and in all." Philippians 2, "God which worketh in you." Okay? Now, when you go to churches and you listen to sermons and hear the praise and worship music, everything is like adoration to this external kind of deity being. It's almost like idolatry after you understand what the New Testament is really getting at. It reminds me of this Star Trek episode back, the original series with Kirk and Spock and all those guys back in the 60s, where they go on this planet and there's all these natives worshiping Vol. Okay? And when I go to a modern, like a churchianity church, and Paul and I still go to them, that reminds me of that. That's what's going on there. There's nobody grabbing these realities by the horns and taking ownership of them. And we also understand the concept of enlightenment. We should never have allowed the East to own this concept of enlightenment. Enlightenment is a Bible word and a Bible concept, and it is something that Christians should own. Okay? And what I'm doing, if you're just listening to this, is I'm highlighting multiple passages where this concept of enlightenment shows up. We have entire doctrines written in systematic theology sitting right over here to my left about regeneration, which is a word that only shows up one time in a soteriological way in your New Testament, and that's in Titus chapter 3, verse 5. Jesus says the word regeneration when he's talking about like millennial reign, new heavens, new earth, that kind of thing. Restructuring society in a supernatural way. Regeneration, it only shows up one time. We have all these big, long doctrines about it. We have the concept of enlightenment shows up multiple times in Scripture. Here's just some of them on the screen right now, and we don't have any doctrines of this laid out that people are required to believe in order to join the church. Okay. And then furthermore, I want to add a couple of things to this, which I haven't really clicked on a lot. I'm going to have to do a separate video on this to really double down and let you understand where I'm coming from on this. But we have unconscious programming, and our unconscious programming, everybody in society, especially all our stage 3 Christians, all the people you listen to, the people think are great, especially like any of the Calvinists or any of the non-Calvinists who are propositionally normative, all share this in common. Doesn't matter whether it's, Vadi Bochum, I never know how to pronounce his name, who just passed away, or R.C. Sproul or John MacArthur. It doesn't matter whether it's him or Leighton Flowers. They all have this programming that they're operating by. Okay? And that is Cartesian dualistic philosophy, Newtonian cosmology, materialist reductionism, post-enlightenment rationalism, propositional normativity, left hemisphere dominance, literal level only interpretation, moral ideological valence, and the idea that God has centralized locality and processing. Now I'd have to double click on all of those, but to like, Kevin, what are you talking about? Right? These are unconscious to people. People don't know that they are programmed by these things. And I want to create a graphic that shows that not only are people programmed by these things, but these things that we have been enculturated with. You're born into a society that programs you this way. Okay. And it's not a moral flaw that you're this way. It's just how we are. It's how we are in society. And we have to repent of this. Cognitive repentance. Grow out of this, see beyond this. And committing to the way that is Christ is the way to outgrow this. And the people who commit to Christ just in lip service, who are still propositionally normative, are not actually committing to Christ. They're committing to propositional reductionism. So they're committing to this programming. So I want to create a graphic which shows that this kind of programming is surrounding the individual, and it creates barriers for what they can see, and it creates barriers for how far they can grow. So until a person is disabused of this programming that everybody has, even the atheists have this. Down here, God is centralized locality and processing. Even the atheists have that, okay? So this isn't a Christian thing. This isn't a Hindu thing. This is a societal thing. Everybody in our society is programmed this way, and the type of churchianity that is available to us is a subset of this programming. It is not outside of it. It doesn't transcend it. It's not beyond it. It's within it, and that's the problem of it, which means that when we're evangelizing people to follow Christ and we think we're getting people to sign up to be Christians, we're not getting them to sign up to be Christians. We're getting them to sign up to a lip service version of that which we can perceive about Christ from within this programming, which is in fact not Christ. So all the evangelism efforts, well, at least they're leading people, they're not leading people to the Lord. They're leading people to a reductionistic product of this kind of programming. A different flavor of this programming is all that's happening to people. Yeah, Roddy says, here we are. I was waiting on the other channel. Doing this kind of stuff live is kind of frustrating sometimes because you set everything up the same way every week, and for whatever reason, sometimes it just doesn't work. And, it might take 2 to 3 hours to figure out why, but when you don't know that it's not working and you only have 10 minutes to look at it, well, it's just not working. It's going to be how it is, I guess. It's just not going to work, but at least it is going, so. But I appreciate you coming over here. I tried to put links to the other ones. Yeah. Try to put links to this elsewhere. So we have unconscious programming, and I would also add a slide of people's stages of development, okay? And this programming is one of the factors that makes most Americans stop in stage 3 and never go beyond it. So we'll try to address that. I also want to say, if you enjoy what you get here, I want to invite you to support the channel. We can't do this without you. And I did something last night. I took my kids, and Paula helped with this. We took our kids to an LSU football game. And it was a lot of fun, but it's not the kind of thing that we can do all the time, right? It's a every once in a while kind of thing. And when I got there, there's these people that have they've had the same tickets and the same seats for 30 years. And they're just so fanatically committed to this thing. And it's fun, and it's fun to be there, and it's fun to do the thing. I could not do it every week. I certainly couldn't do it for 30 years. But I can't help but think it's fun to get together to play a sport, and I think that all that kind of thing societally has its place and plays up. And I'm not trying to denigrate anything specifically, but for what we're doing here on this channel, we could really use some like just really strong fanatical supporters. We could really use that here. I have a vision for this channel to grow into something that kind of operates maybe like the Daily Wire, but of course all the content would be different. But you would have multiple presenters, you'd have lots of content, you'd have it, but you can't have something like that when you're doing something off the side of your desk that barely rakes in enough to just keep it going. And so that's a little struggle that we're having to. This isn't the only thing I have to focus on. I have a regular 9 to 5 job, just like everybody else, and have other challenges. Like I'm having to go to court to fight for my kids recently. Thank God they're here this weekend. So some of the court stuff has been successful so far. Those of you who know about that and are also helping support that. A lot of distractions in life, and I really think that if we can have enough people focusing on and supporting this channel, doing this thing, I really think we could make a huge dent in the consciousness level of humanity. I think we could become something very impactful and that has a lot of influence, and we could really prompt a huge chunk of humanity to grow, develop, and transcend and transform into their next stage of development and raise the level of human consciousness beyond what it is in a hugely impacting way. So when we ask for support on here, the vision that we're trying to move into is where this is a full-time thing, where it can be the singular focus of occupation and employment, and we can really help a lot more people become aware of what they can become for the sake of themselves, their families, and everybody else, and ultimately alleviate a whole lot of unnecessary human suffering that is caused by the things in our society, like our unconscious programming that we're all subjected to. We're on Facebook and Twitter, and if you want a one-on-one consultation, you can get a one-on-one consultation on this channel. Go to beyondthefundamentals.com and scroll down. To book a one-on-one consultation. It is a paid consultation because I can't do these things for free. But in that 1 hour session, or you can book 2 hours if you want, however long you want, or one session or multiple sessions, we will take all the domains in which we have built fluency on this channel over the years, and we will apply it specifically to your situation. Okay, I make no promises about the the helpfulness of how this will affect you, but everyone who has done this so far, and there's been quite a few, has sung its praises and been very grateful that they did this and have found it to be very helpful. And we got some people that are one and done. That's all I needed. I'm good. I'm on a new trajectory now. Some people stay in touch and come back for more, and that's fine. So whatever it is you need, just making this available, because I understand that as we do YouTube videos, it's not everybody's relevance landscape, salience landscape, and relevance landscape picks up what we're saying and sees how it is relevant to their situation. And so that's what those one-on-one sessions for. Here's how it's relevant to your situation. Here's some homework you can do. Here's some things you can work on. Here's some things you need to know about. With all that being said, let's get into today's session, where we're looking at Ephesians chapter 2, verses 19 through 22. And the way we operate here is we take the text of Scripture and we do a functional reframing of it. The functional reframing is not intended to rewrite Scripture or suggest that Scripture is wrong in any way, shape, or form. It's simply by way of commentary as a mechanism of sharing what my perspective is with you. I'm not trying to teach you anything. You don't have to agree with anything that we say. I'm trying to share a perspective with you. And this could be seen, any commentary or sermon or lesson is also doing the same thing. We're just more overt about what we're doing and how we're doing it. And there's no requirement that you look at anything you hear here as being authoritative in any way. I do not speak for God, okay? And I cannot say anything that can change your moral standing between you and God. All I'm doing is sharing a perspective. And if you find it helpful, and if it's in your zone of proximal development, you can watch and listen. And if it's not helpful, and not within your proximal zone of development, you don't have to watch and listen, and you're not wrong or our enemy for deciding that. It's okay. Okay. So I want to emphasize that very strongly. Just looking, is this helpful? And if so, great. If it's not, that's fine. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to examine the text on the left side of the graphic, and then we're going to look at the functional reframe, then we're going to go over some concepts, and then we're going to end it up. We're going to wrap things up. In Ephesians chapter 2, verse 19, now therefore ye are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and of the household of God. And the functional reframe is, so now you are no longer outsiders or temporary guests, you are co-citizens of the reconstituted order, integrally woven into the community of those who have undergone refinement and been shaped for unique purpose, belonging fully to the household rooted in the source. So what does all that mean? I'm going to give you some illustrations here in a second. I think it can be very helpful. You say, why am I laughing like that? Because I just thought of something that I should have Googled before I started this, but it'll be fine. We can do it together. Verse 20, and are built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone. And the functional reframe of this is, and the shared becoming rests upon the foundational insights of those who have carried forward the pattern of those who perceived and spoke from deep contact with reality. Notice there's interaction with reality. There's perception. Perspectival capability. It's very important here. Deep contact with reality with the designate himself as the essential orienting structure. Of course, that would be Christ. The point through which all alignment holds. Now, the visuals that I'm going to try to give you in a minute, I think are going to be very helpful for this. Verse 21, in whom all the building fitly framed together groweth into an holy temple in the Lord. Verse 21 on the functional reframe, in him the entire structure coheres, and that word coherence is very, very important. Each differentiated part joined precisely as needed, undergoing continual organic growth into a dwelling space fit for sacred presence, shaped not by uniformity, but by integrative harmony. Verse 22, in whom ye also are builded together for an habitation of God through the Spirit. Verse 22, and you two are being integrated into this living structure formed as a locus. Now that word locus, like location, kind of location. Now in the title for today, the title is Unified Loci of Experience, and loci, L-O-C-I, is just the plural of locus. So, and not locus like the bug, like locust, locus, location. So loci is multiple locations. Formed as a locus where the source becomes tangibly present through the animating essence that orients and indwells all who awaken to their participatory role in the unfolding. Where do I start today? There's so many things that I want to share with you. There's so many things that I want to tell you. Let's imagine that you could watch me play basketball, okay? And let's imagine that after you watch me play basketball for, I don't know, a year, you could get to the point where you could spot me because of how I move and how I play. Like even out of the corner of your eye, when you see certain things, I'd be like, oh, that's Kevin. Like there's, I'm a big Michael Jordan fan from back in the day. So I can tell the way he moves versus how other players move. It's a different kind of thing. And it would, if you focus on a different player, you get that. I think John Morant is pretty fun to watch too. So imagine that. Now, I want you to imagine, okay, you stopped watching me play basketball. Now you're going to watch me play a video game where I'm a basketball player in the video game. Would there be any through line? Would there be any similarities from how I play the basketball player in the video game to how I actually played basketball in my body in real time, in real life? Would there be any, could you be able to watch the video game and tell which player I'm controlling from having watched me in real life? And there's no yes or no, there's no right or wrong answer. I just want to put the concept there that maybe there is a through line of some kind. Now, I don't even play basketball video games. But now let's change it up a little bit. Is there a way, let's say that I was playing a first-person shooter game. If there were 100 people playing first-person shooter games, but you'd only seen me play basketball in real life and basketball on a video game, could you tell which first-person shooter character I was controlling? Could you spot it? Could you see which one it was? Okay. Now let's go to a different, let's use the game Pong. You know, remember Pong back on Atari or in television, or, Pong was a very simple game where you have a ball going across the screen. It's just two-dimensional, and you just get to move a lever to where when the ball comes up, you touch it, and then it goes back to the other player, and they touch it, that kind of thing. Could you tell that? If you watched 100 people play Pong, could you tell which one was me from having watched me do the other things? Okay. Or you could do it in reverse order. Go from the simple to complex. Go from Pong and then build up to Pitfall and build up to maybe Pac-Man and build up to first-person shooters or something like that. Could you tell as you built up? Now, I would be the same in all these situations. It's still me playing all these games, still me doing these things. But watching me express myself through the game of Pong, it would still be an expression of me, but in a very different way that has different limitations than, say, me expressing myself, the expression of myself through, say, a first-person shooter game, or through Pac-Man, or through a basketball video game, or through a real game of basketball in this body, which is just a different interface than the other ones. So it's still me expressing myself through what you might call different interfaces or through different instruments, okay? And so you could take this analogy in any direction with any set of things, okay? If you listen to me play guitar for a month, and then you listen to me play piano, or then you listen to 100 piano players, could you spot which one was me, having never heard me play the piano, but only having heard me play guitar? Or, you understand what I'm getting at? Or if you only heard me sing, and then you heard 100 people playing the bass, would you be able to pick out which one was me? It's still the same person expressing himself through a different medium. Are you getting me? If you take consciousness, base level consciousness, and you use something like a caulking gun or a garlic press or one of those Play-Doh mashers that mashes things out and it all becomes spaghetti on the other end. If you just mash that consciousness through a minnow, like a little tiny fish, what would you get? It's the same consciousness. Now, if you press that same consciousness through a giraffe, what do you get? If you press that same consciousness through an amoeba, what do you get? If you press the same consciousness, just squeeze it through Kevin Thompson, with those specific genetics, being a little lunatic and left-handed and all this kind of stuff, what do you get? If you push it through you, what do you get? The concept is that so imagine somebody looking at Pong and the basketball video game and the first-person shooter game and Pitfall and Pac-Man, and somebody saying, oh, those are all the same. You're like, you're nuts. You're crazy. You're an idiot. They're not the same. Pong is way different than the first-person shooter. But when the person who knows how to spot the player recognizes the player in all those different platforms. You can now see that it is the same. It's the same person playing all those games. It's the same person doing all those things. And I can recognize that same person. There they are. So to one person, it's very different. You see you're distracted by exactly what you're presented with, and you don't understand what is underlying behind the scenes that's controlling the game of Pong, or what's underlying behind the scenes that's controlling the first-person shooter game. And to someone with a greater degree of perception, you can see the through line. Oh, that's Kevin. That's Kevin. That's Kevin. That's Kevin. That's all the same. That's all one. It's all together. Whereas a person who doesn't know Kevin, they're like, no, that's Pong, and that's Pac-Man, and that's Pitfall, and that's Super Mario Brothers, and that's a basketball game. They don't see the through line. They don't know that it's the same. They don't realize that it's me playing all those games. They haven't been able to recognize how I show up in those different areas, or when my consciousness and agency and ability is pressed through that set of limitations. You could take an amazing saxophone player, okay? And then imagine listening to 100 people play the kazoo. Would you be able to tell which one of those kazoo players just by listening to them was the saxophone player? You see, it's the same guy, but he's using a different instrument. And the two instruments have a very different set of limitations. And some of them are very limited, and there's a limited degree to which there is variability. And some of them are much more expressive, much less limited, much more opportunity and capability through that modality of expression. But it's the same saxophone player. And would you be able to spot that same saxophone player if there were 100 people throwing a frisbee and one of them was him? So when it comes to God, there are some people who have had the firsthand experience of recognizing that everything when they look around, and maybe God is too much of a word for some of us at this point, but there are some people who, when they look around, they recognize that there are a lot of different games going on, but it's all the same player. Now, let me throw another twist to it. Let's say before the player goes to play the game, before I go to play Pong, I forget everything about myself, and I decide to fully invest everything that I know into Pong, into the Pong game. So that version of me, or that tendril of me, even though it's me, does not know that I am also back out of the game, also playing the basketball game and Pac-Man and Pitfall. Doesn't know that. So from that perspective, the Pong player of Kevin looks over at the basketball player of Kevin and sees it as a different player. It's a different kind of thing going on. I don't know anything about that. I'm stuck in Pong land. They're doing something else over there. There are some people who have firsthand experience with recognizing that the player behind all the games that surround us is the same player. Now, you can't believe this as a dogma. It's not something that you can hear Kevin say and you can write down in a statement of faith somewhere, and then we form a group based on all the people who affirm this. The ability to actually perceive what I'm telling you has to be cultivated. It has to be cultivated. It has to be built up within you. So if you look at verse 21 here, Some of y'all might not sound like I'm talking about Ephesians chapter 2, but I so am. In him, the entire structure coheres, each differentiated part joined precisely as needed, undergoing continual organic growth into a dwelling space fit for sacred presence, shaped not by uniformity, but by integrative harmony. A lot of different games going on. You could look at the cells in your body. The cells in your body, one's maintaining an eyeball, and one of them's maintaining your liver. None of the cells are, you can have a liver cell, but that cell is not the liver. The liver requires a bunch of different cells, and the eyeball requires all the liver cells to be there. Well, the eyeball's not going to work because the person's going to die without a liver. What looks at one level to be different things at a higher level, now we understand genetics today. We understand that every cell in my body has the same genetics, and those genes are telling all the cells what jobs to go do so that this body, this thing that we call Kevin, can function in a somewhat proper way or somewhat intended way that facilitates the flow of consciousness and experience. And when you look at the eyeball and you look at the liver, they may look like two very different things. Like, oh, those are different, those are separate. But if you understand genetics, you know, well, they got the same DNA in them. It's both Kevin DNA. That's what you have going on. Now the thumbnail that we have today, what slide are we on? 81, so many slides here. The thumbnail that we have today has a bunch of, has a person there with a bunch of little windows in them. They're all together like this. Now, what I wanted to Google, I'm going to Google it right now. How many pixels are in a 4K screen? In a 4K display. How many pixels are in a 4K display? So it's approximately 8.3 million pixels in a display. Let's change it to 8K. In an 8K display, there are 33 million pixels. Over 33 million pixels. I'm just Googling it, okay? I'm sure the precise number is something, you know, precise. But let's say that each one of us is a pixel on a screen. And if you don't know what a pixel on a screen is, it's like when you look at a screen and you dial it down to its smallest, most part, the what you might call the Planck event of a display is a single pixel. And all that single pixel is doing is generating a red, blue, green blend that shows up as one color on one pixel. And now there are some TVs, I have a 3D TV that added yellow into that, but you have a limited number of colors and you combine them in a certain way, pass light through them in a certain way, and you get a certain color displayed in a pixel. Well, if you put all those pixels together, if you're watching this right now, it is a combination of all those pixels being put together, and then they're constantly changing color to give the illusion of what your eyes would see if you were looking at me with your eyeballs. And this illusion is created through pixels. So you get to see the whole picture, and you get to see it move, and it just gets immediately presented to you as a whole thing. There it is. But imagine that you are just one pixel. And you're just this red, blue, green pixel, and beside you, there's another red, blue, green pixel. Beside you, there's another red, blue, green pixel. And as far as you can tell, you're not that pixel's not you. And there's the illusion of separateness. And it seems like you're two different things. You're two different pixels. I'm this pixel, they're that pixel. I've got more red tint to me. He's got more blue tint to him. We're different. I'm going to join the church of the red tint. Well, he's going to join the church of the blue tint. This other guy is going to join the church of the yellow tent. And so they all separate and factionalize because they all think they're separate. But what they don't realize is it's the same programming, the same backlight is being passed through all the pixels. And the pixels aren't separate. They are designed to work together to present a common picture. Okay? Are you following me so far? This is humanity. But there's a problem with humanity. And that problem is, let's say that first of all, let me pause there. And so what you can imagine is that each pixel is what you might call a locus of experience. Imagine you're an unlimited being who can do whatever you want, and you could dream to be whatever you want. And Alan Watts talks about this. One day you could dream that you are, if you could dream whatever you want, you might spend your dreams living out 80-year lifespans, being a millionaire and having all the cars and all the women and all the houses and things like that. And that would be fine for a day or two, but then you kind of get bored and you're like, let's mix things up a bit. And then you'd mix things up some more. You'd mix things up some more. You can't, imagine an omniscient being, you can't really experience surprise. So you have to do something. You have to have a kenosis of your omniscience in some limited, tendril way in order to experience emotion at all. And what do people want in relationships? They want to experience emotion. That's why they're in relationships. It's one of the main reasons they're in relationships. They want to experience some kind of emotion. They want to have some kind of emotional experience. Well, if you're an omniscient being, you can't have an emotional experience. So the only way you could possibly have an emotional experience is to intentionally have a kenosis or an emptying out of some of your attributes so that you could experience something as if it was out of control. Now, it's just a dream, so you're going to wake up, it's all under control, but you're intentionally letting things go a little haywire, get a little crazy. And so you do that to all these pixels. So each one of us is a locus of experience of the base unified consciousness. The locus of experience and the ideal goal, Romans 8:19, waiting for the manifestation of the sons of God. When God is glorified, it's not this elevated thing that, like this king structure where everybody bows down and pays homage. Oh, you are great, paying lip service and all this stuff. It is when the individuated separate entity, the individuated locus of experience, turns back around and looks and recognizes itself for where it came from. That's when God is glorified. The re-recognition of self. Or to put it another way, when you are dreaming and it seems real and like you're in this crazy environment, if you could suddenly start to lucid dream but not wake up. Oh, this is a dream. But I'm staying asleep. And now I can kind of control my dream. I had a very scary experience one time where I realized I was dreaming. So my dream was then lucid. I knew I was in a dream, but I could not control it. And some crazy things were happening. It was crazy. You would think if you knew you were dreaming, you could control the stuff in it, but I couldn't. And so there you are. You are one of the loci of experience of the universe's consciousness. And the goal is for all of them to turn around and look back at itself. And to recognize it, to see it. That's me. That's not the only goal, but that's a starting point goal. And people who stay stage 3 till they die never get that starting point goal. One of the reasons we exist is to try to help you get there, or to help you envision what's possible so that you know there's something to strive for, practice toward, to become. Now let's complicate things a little bit, and let's say that out of your 33 million pixels on your 8K display, most of them are duds. And so you somehow have a way, and each pixel has a lifespan of so long. Maybe it's a minute, maybe it's an hour, but most of the pixels are duds. And as you just throw pixels at it, and you keep putting pixels in there, and most of them are duds, most of them, the light never shines through them. And so those particular, now the light's still the light. The light's not going anywhere. The light can't die, it's the light. The lights it can either shine through a kazoo or through a clarinet or me or you or not through anything. If it's not shining through anything, it doesn't go away. It's still there. It's not represented on an instrument panel anywhere. When some planes can fly by instrument, and and it's looking at the weather and the clouds and the sky and all that. Well, when you turn off the plane and the instrument panel isn't working, the plane and the clouds and sky, it's all still there. It's all still there. You just can't see it on your instrument panel. What we don't realize is that all of our experience is instrument panel experience, and the reality that's out there doesn't go away when our instrument panel shuts down. It's still there. It's just an instrument panel. And to some degree, your body and your lived experience and the body that you're in is a set of instrument panels through which consciousness experiences itself. And for the glory of Romans 5 and Romans 8 to be manifested is when you can see through the instrument panel and actually have some kind of experience with the sky. So the nature of things is most of the pixels are duds, and most of the pixels, but the pixels have to go through a refinement process so they can not become duds. And there's not a one-for-one pixel rematch, but the dead pixels go back in and they get remixed, and new pixels come out, newly formed pixels from the same pixel material. And the light tries to shine through them, and the light shines through them. So there's some success. Say out of 33 million pixels, maybe 5 or 6 light up. There's some success. So you keep throwing pixels at it, some more light up. And then over time, remember, pixels only last an hour. They die. And so then some of the ones that weren't duds, they start to go out. But if you could get them all lit up at the same time, they would all stay lit up and they never die. I don't know if some of y'all can follow me on this. So over time, let's say Heraclitus maybe is one of the pixels that's lit up. And Jesus is certainly, a ray of sunshine, shining, beaming light. And some of these people are pixels that are lit up. Moses' face shone. Okay, so every once in a while you get pixels that light up, but then their embodiment, the kazoo or the clarinet, goes away, and so the light has to come through another way. But over time, as you keep throwing pixels at the screen, more and more are lighting up, and more are lighting up. And I think this is what's happening to mankind, where over time, very slowly, more and more pixels are lighting up. And one of our jobs is to light up as much as we can personally and be a clear conduit of the light to shine through and recognize where the light's coming from. We'll talk more about that in a second. But also to do whatever else we can to help the pixels beside us become as undudded as possible, to clarify, cleanse, and let the light shine through them as much as possible, at least as far along as you've come. JC says he's following. I appreciate the feedback. Not a lot of movement in the comment section, which is fine. Maybe it means everybody's like listening intently. Maybe it means nobody's listening. I don't know. It's not like I'm in front of an audience in a congregation in an auditorium where I can look at the faces and see the attention level. So I have to trust that somebody is mopping up what I'm spilling. And over time, so ideally the point of, and this might sound blasphemous to somebody, and I don't care, but the point of mankind is essentially that if I keep throwing enough pixels at the screen, it will show. Let's imagine I'm the ultimate consciousness of the universe, and I keep throwing pixels at this 8K screen, and as it lights up and lights up and lights up, there's a degree to which I don't know what the picture is going to be. Now, I'm not trying to get into open theism. Those kinds of things aren't suitable for perspective sharing. So don't worry about attribution morality. God, you're more or less moral because you don't affirm God's attributes to be a certain way. It's funny, these people, they say God is unknowable, and then they tell you what all his attributes are. It's the most dumb thing you've ever heard of in your life. But imagine that you're waiting. Like if you're having a dream that you're not controlling, the entertaining thing is to see how it turns out. And so this whatever the final pixelated picture is, the whole thing's all put together, the revelation of the glory of God. Let's say it's a mirror, but the entity has a kenosis of whatever that thing is on purpose. Of course, the omniscient capability is there, but there's an intentional kenosis so that emotion can be experienced. And I want to see who I am. I want to see who I am. Imagine you had amnesia and you forgot who you were. But you could take your consciousness and you could split it into a million different little things, and you could have one of them playing Pong, one of them playing this video game, one of them playing this video game, and one of them have a relationship with them, and one of them have a relationship with this person, one of them being born to this person, one of them being born to that one, and one of them doing all these different things. And what they would do is they would re-inform you who you are. And there's some kind of, see what I'm saying? So there's a way that people can get traumatized to the point where they are dissociated. They forget who they are, or they have multiple personalities, or that kind of thing. You could see each one of us as a pixel that is also one of the multiple personalities. Whatever the trauma was, whatever the war in heaven was, where everything split apart. The whole point, if you look at the reconciliation of Jesus Christ in Colossians chapter 1, verse 20, where he is reconciling all things back to himself, it's almost like the consciousness of the universal mind has been intentionally or allowingly fragmented into a million different pieces, none of which know each other, and none of which have the awareness of where they came from. And they all see each other as separate, not knowing that they all came from the same place, and not knowing that the whole intent is for them to all return back to where they came from. None of them know that. So the whole point is to recognize that the thing over there that looks separate from you, that has the illusion of separateness, is the same thing that you are, and has the same light shining through it that is shining through you. You are it, and it is you. And the whole goal is to wake up to realize what and who you are. And as you do, you also start to realize and recognize that everybody else is the same light being pushed through a different instrument. Now, maybe I'm a beautiful jazz clarinet and you're a kazoo. Or maybe I'm a kazoo and you're a beautiful jazz clarinet. Okay. So you might say, well, how can the same consciousness, how can it be the same consciousness being passed through, say, Mother Teresa and Adolf Hitler? Well, you have your clarinets and you have your kazoos. You have your Pong and you have your Pac-Man and you have your first-person shooters. Garrett says, most of the loci are never going to look back at the whole. Whenever I look past my pixel, entropy is super salient. Source consciousness is not. So it takes time. It takes time. Friday says we are listening intently. I listened, but my son jacked my YouTube, listening for years. That's funny. So now where do we want to go? We want to go to the concept. We have the illusion of separateness. So when you look at me and I look at you, we're looking at two different people. I'm a Republican and you're a Democrat, and I'm a Baptist and you're a Presbyterian, I'm a Catholic, you're an atheist, you're a Muslim, and I'm a Hindu. And we see separateness. That's what we see. In the history of philosophy, different people have stumbled across the same kinds of things that we see in Scripture. And so I want to talk about that for just a second. I have this passage here, the spirit of man. It's Proverbs 20:27. The spirit of man is the candle of the Lord, searching all the inward parts of the belly. Solomon had a hold of something that really didn't kind of show up until Schopenhauer came on the scene a little bit later. So at the end of when Immanuel Kant came along, he recognized that, first Descartes. Descartes is under the complete illusion of separateness. It's almost like Gnostic dualism, but he's complete duality, complete separateness. Each person is just hardware that can be programmed in different ways. And there's some signal in just about what any of these guys have to say. And so Kant comes along, he's like, well, there's not complete separateness. There's something that's, animating everything. And the degree to which we're not just all programmable machines, there's a degree to which you must transform so that you can perceive, so that you can see more. There's certain things you can't see or do until you can cultivate the ability to see and do them. So Descartes duality, and that's where all your provisionists and Calvinists are. That's like people are just need the correct programming, and then they can function in the proper way, and they will do the right thing, and they will serve the right purpose. And Kant is more like, no, they need to become something different than what they are. Like, in order to become the guy that gets cut from the high school basketball team, to become the guy that has his logo on football jerseys, you have to become something. And it takes time and practice, not a set of moralistic beliefs, in order to become that thing. So Kant says, generate the concept of the nous, and the nous is basically the reality is mental, reality is a mind, is another way to say it, but we don't have access to it. All we have access to are all these separate loci of experiences like us. So then Schopenhauer comes along, and Schopenhauer says Kant is mostly right, except there is one place. There is one place where you can experience the nous firsthand. Because if you look at another human being, you might be able to extrapolate what it's like to be another human being. Like, there's another man over there. I can probably extrapolate what it's like to be him, because in a lot of ways we're alike. I might even be able to do that with a woman. I might even be able to do that with my cat or my dog to some degree, to some lesser degree. But then, like, to get the experience of what is it like to be the nous? It's like, well, Kant is like, that's unknowable. Can't know that. There's no way to experience that. There's no way to get access to that. So Schopenhauer comes along and says, well, there's one way. There's one way that you can get access to the nous. And it's interesting that it took, Solomon's writing around, 900 BC So it's interesting that it takes nearly 3,000 years to show back up. Well, Solomon said this already. Solomon said what Schopenhauer later discovered. And what he said is the spirit of the man is the candle of the Lord, searching all the inward parts of the belly. So Schopenhauer comes along and rediscovers this and says, yeah, Kant is mostly right. Through all the external illusions of separateness that are out there, you cannot experience the nous, but there is one place where you can experience the nous. You can experience it by looking inward. By looking inward. So imagine if you're watching this right now, imagine the pixels that are showing my face and the fingers and this chair and this microphone and whatever. Imagine each one of those pixels. If they look beside them, it just looks like different pixels. But if they could redirect their attention back, imagine they have the consciousness to do this, and that consciousness has to be cultivated. If they could redirect their attention back and say, oh, there is an electronic transmission here, and there is a single electronic transmission coming from a guy sitting in his office in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and Kevin has the intent for all of these pixels to present a unified image of a presentation. And all we pixels are part of this unified presentation that Kevin has intended to convey to whoever wants to listen to it or watch it. So you can look back to the degree, search the inward parts of the belly. Imagine there's like an electrical cable or in the Matrix when they plug the little thing in the back of their head. Imagine there's a way you can look back through that wire back into the machine or something like that. Imagine each little pixel on your screen right now that's displaying this video has the ability to look back through the device, through the probably wireless internet connectivity, back through all the cell towers and internet routers and everything else that it's going through, and see its way back through all these devices somehow back through the camera and back through to see me. So, that's where we're all coming from, and we're all here to serve a unified purpose, and that's what it is. We're not all different. We're all the same. We all come from the same thing, and here we are. So Schopenhauer comes along and says, well, Solomon says, the spirit of the man is the candle of the Lord, searching all the inward parts of the belly. And so what that implies strongly is that in order to get in touch with the candle of the Lord, which is the spirit of the man, is to search all the inward parts of the belly. Now, when the Bible says the word belly, it's not talking about your stomach or your pot belly or your abdomen. Okay? This is a figure of speech. It is figuratively of the innermost part of man, the inmost soul. You see phrases show up in places like Proverbs 18:18, Proverbs 26:22, Proverbs 20:27, which is this passage, Proverbs 20, verse 30. It's the seat of intellectual faculties. It's whatever is at the core of whatever makes the man. And there's a process to this. Now, I'm not going to get into the process of different practices that you can do. We have other videos on this. But you start a process of practices whereby you're looking inward, and you start with your body because that's your firsthand experience, and then you start to achieve a recognition of separateness with your body like you do with other things, and then because you kind of have to wade through and sort out. Like I can look at Paula, and I can look at my children, I go, oh, that's not me, that's something else. I'm wading through and I'm sorting out. If I'm digging in within me, and I have to start with somatic awareness, it's your awareness of your body. And there's certain things you say, oh, this is me. Well, there's certain things you can't control. Like Jesus said, which of you by taking thought can add 1 cubit of height to its structure? Who can do that? You can't do that. You can't stop your hair from growing. Maybe you would like to restart your hair to grow. There's so many things we can't control. Your heart's beating. And if you want to stop some of this stuff, you can stop it. There is the ultimate override. You could commit suicide. Of course, we don't recommend that. But of course, there's an ultimate override. But basically, by default mode of operation, your fingernails are going to grow. Your skin is going to heal itself. And you're not doing any of it. You don't even know how your eyeball works. There's a lot of things. You're just given this body. We study and study and study. Doctors go to school for years to learn how the body works, and no one doctor knows how it all works. They all have to specialize in different areas. We don't know how this body works. We didn't make this. We're just using it like an instrument right now. We're flowing through it. But inward introspection, starting with somatic awareness, breath work, and things like that, we start to recognize what is us and what is not. Anything from your heart beating to your breath. You can control your breath. Happens automatically when you don't think about it, but you can call attention to it, do it intentionally, or stop it intentionally. So you start to sort these things out, and you, starting with somatic awareness, starting with mindfulness, which Christians should understand is a Bible concept. Mindfulness is not a bad, evil, Eastern Star Wars Force kind of thing. All it means is awareness. You're just aware. You're aware of what's around you. You're aware of what your feet are touching, of your heart beating, of your breath, of the blood coursing through your veins. And then you also start to separate the fact that your thoughts are not even actually you. Your brain is doing a whole bunch of things that you're not telling it to do. And there's a way to get that to stop. And so over time, you sort through all this stuff and you recognize that perceiving the light that's behind every pixel, it comes through a series of practices, and you have to practice it. And breakthroughs are going to come with intense practice. You combine the work of Caroline Leaf. Breakthroughs are probably not going to come any faster than about every 63 days. We learned this through how long it takes for neuroplasticity. It takes about 63 days for your brain to start working in a new way when you start training it in a new way. So we think of Christianity as something we can send people off to seminary or send them to Sunday school or have them listen to sermons. Christianity is a set of facts and data that lives in your head. That's how we treat Christianity. It's nothing of the sort. The way that is Christ is the way, partially, it includes searching all the inward parts of the belly and getting in touch with whatever that candle of the Lord is. And it's a long process. You might as well start now. You don't go from being dropped from your high school basketball team to having your logo on football jerseys overnight. It doesn't happen right away. It takes time, persistence. So Christianity is not a set of things to agree with or disagree with, that we have to have all the right things written down so that we can pass them on to the next generation. No, you have to become through practice the person that can have a firsthand experience with observing the nous that is expressing itself through you. And you have to practice to get there. You can't just believe some things and be in the club. It doesn't work that way. And so when I talk to people, you can't fake the way that is Christ. If you want to be a good Calvinist and be in a good 9 marks church and all this kind of stuff, I could go fake being a Calvinist right now, because I could go say all the things. I could go fake being a good independent Baptist right now. I can go say all the things. I can go fake being a Catholic right now. I can say all the things and pass myself off as one of them. And they wouldn't know any different, because it's just data being transferred propositionally. But when people try to talk to me, and if I can tell if they're mopping up what I'm spilling by talking to them, regardless of what they say. If they're trying to speak my language and trying to say my stuff, but they're not there. And I'm not saying I'm all that in a bag of chips. I can only speak from my level where I am, my own locus of experience. Right? And I know I have a long way to go. But I can tell whether somebody is a fellow traveler with me or not. And I'm not trying to use Masonic lingo or anything like that. Just trying to express this however I can. I can tell if somebody's a fellow traveler with me. I can tell if they're beyond me. I can tell if they're not where I am yet, as far as what they can perceive. I can tell quickly by how they talk. It's fast, quick. People do it without even realizing they're doing it. I don't even have to ask any questions. Any kind of interaction. They give themselves away. It's not a bad thing. It's not like, oh, I gotta watch out. It's not, and it's also not like I'm always analyzing people. But sometimes people want to be analyzed. They're like, hey, tell me what stage of growth I'm in, that kind of thing. Well, let's have a conversation. Well, I didn't get into the commentary portion of this yet. And it is past, we've been going for more than an hour, and I haven't quite gotten to the commentary portion that I wanted to get to. And that's okay. We're going to pause this off right now because I think that I've given you enough to think about for now. And we're going to pick back up with this next time. Okay? So I want to emphasize again, I really want this channel to grow. I really want to be able to focus on this and do this full time and attract more people. And I want to have a steady, publishing schedule. Like, for sure, we're going live every Sunday. And we release 3 videos a week, and they come out at 4 p.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Like, that's where I want to get, okay? And I need your help to get there, okay? So if you believe in what we're doing here and you want to see this affect more people, please help me support this financially so that we can grow so where this is the main focus. I need some folks out there to be fanatically invested in this, like some of those fanatical college football fans that I observed last night. That's what we need. That's what we need. And like GC says here, please do another teaching on this. I've never heard anyone speak like this. It's refreshing. And that's another reason that this channel needs to keep going, is because we're not just repeating what you're supposed to say as a Christian. We're not just following systematic theology or following the party line. We're sharing a unique perspective of somebody who has, I think, something valuable to share that can help you grow. And I think that it can help a lot of people. And I think that we can all work together to reduce unnecessary suffering in this world. So help me make that happen. Let's make this happen. And welcome aboard, GC. We have you might enjoy, if this is your first session, GC, I think this is session 13. You might enjoy sessions 1 through 12, and they are in the playlist on both channels, on the one we're listening to now and on BTF Grow and Relate. All right, folks, we are going to wrap things up right there. I'm going to put up a QR code here. This QR code will take you to our donate page. And I hate to spend so much time talking about donation stuff, but it's just the base reality. Time is money. I think this stuff is valuable. Value is an economic word. And in order for me to help make this valuable stuff available, it takes economic power to do so. So that's why we have to push this out there. Help us with what we're doing. Thanks for watching. May the Lord bless you. Have a good day.